The following is a free-for-download audiobook available on KrishnaPath.org. Science of Self-Realization, Chapter 2, Choosing a Spiritual Master. What is a guru? On hearing the word guru, we tend to envision a caricature-like image, a bizarre-looking old fellow with a long, stringy beard and flowing robes, meditating on distant esoteric truths. Or we think of a cosmic con man cashing in on young seekers' spiritual gullibility. But what is a guru? What does he know that we don't? How does he enlighten us? In a talk given in England in 1973, Srila Prabhupada provides some enlightening answers. Om Jnanatimnandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunminitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Quote, I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my guru, my spiritual master, opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. End quote. The word Ajnaya means, quote, ignorance, or, quote, darkness, end quote. If all the lights in this room went out, we would not be able to tell where we or others are sitting. Everything would become confused. Similarly, we are all in darkness in this material world, which is a world of tamas. Tamas, or tamida, means, quote, darkness, end quote. This material world is dark, and therefore it needs sunlight or moonlight for illumination. However, there is another world, a spiritual world, that is beyond this darkness. That world is described by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 15:6. Natad basayate suryo nashashanko napavaka yadgatvanadi vartante tadama paramam mama. Quote, that abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. End quote. The Guru's business is to bring his disciples from darkness to light. At present, everyone is suffering due to ignorance, just as one contacts a disease out of ignorance. If one does not know hygienic principles, he will not know what will contaminate him. Therefore, due to ignorance, there is infection, and we suffer from disease. A criminal may say, quote, I did not know the law, end quote, but he will not be excused if he commits a crime. Ignorance is no excuse. Similarly, a child, not knowing that fire will burn, will touch the fire. The fire does not think, quote, this is a child, and he does not know I will burn, end quote. No, there is no excuse. Just as there are state laws, there are also stringent laws of nature, and these laws will act despite our ignorance of them. If we do something wrong out of ignorance, we must suffer. That is the law. Whether the law is a state law or the law of the nature, we risk suffering if we break it. The Guru's business is to see that no human being suffers in this material world. No one can claim that he is not suffering. That is not possible. In this material world, there are three kinds of suffering: Adhyatmika, Adibodhika, and Adidaivika. These are miseries arising from the material body and mind, from other living entities, and from the forces of nature. We may suffer mental anguish, or we may suffer from other living entities, from ants or mosquitoes or flies, or we may suffer due to some superior power. There may be no rain, or there may be flood. There may be excessive heat or excessive cold. So many types of suffering are imposed by nature. Thus, there are three types of miseries within the material world, and everyone is suffering from them, from one, two, or three of them. No one can say that he is completely free from suffering. We may then ask why the living entity is suffering. The answer is out of ignorance. He does not think, quote, I am committing mistakes and I'm leading a sinful life. That is why I'm suffering, end quote. Therefore, the Guru's first business is to rescue his disciple from this ignorance. We send our children to school to save them from suffering. If our children do not receive an education, we fear that they will suffer in the future. The Guru sees that suffering is due to ignorance, which is compared to darkness. How can one in darkness be saved? By light. The Guru takes the torchlight of knowledge and presents it before the living entity enveloped in darkness. That knowledge relieves him from the sufferings of the darkness of ignorance. One may ask whether the Guru is absolutely necessary. The Vedas inform us that he is. Tadvayagarnatam sagarom eva bhagachet samitpana stotyam brahmanishtam, Mudanka Upanishad 1-12. The Vedas enjoin us to seek out a guru. Actually, they say to seek out the guru, not just a guru. The guru is one because he comes in the disciplic succession. What Vyasadeva and Krishna taught 5,000 years ago is also being taught now. There is no difference between the two instructions. Although hundreds and thousands of acharyas have come and gone, the message is one. The real guru cannot be two, for the real guru does not speak differently from his predecessors. Some spiritual teachers say, quote, "In my opinion, you should do this," end quote. But this is not a guru. Such so-called gurus are simply rascals. The genuine guru has only one opinion, and that is the opinion expressed by Krishna, Vyasadeva, Narada, Arjuna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Goswamis. 5,000 years ago, Lord Sri Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, and Vyasadeva recorded it. Srila Vyasadeva did not say, quote, "This is my opinion," end quote. Rather, he wrote, Sri Bhagavanu Vacha, that is, quote, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead says," end quote. Whatever Vyasadeva wrote was originally spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Vyasadeva did not give his own opinion. Consequently, Srila Vyasadeva is a guru. He does not misinterpret the words of Krishna, but transmits them exactly as they were spoken. If we send a telegram, the person who delivers the telegram does not have to correct it, edit it, or add to it. He simply presents it. That is the guru's business. The guru may be this person or that, but the message is the same. Therefore it is said that guru is one. In the disciplic succession, we simply find repetition of the same subject. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:34, Krishna says, "Manmana badamad bhakta madhyajimam namaskaru mamavasyashi yuktaivam atmanam parayana." Quote, "Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me." End quote. These very instructions were reiterated by all the acharyas, such as Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The 6 Goswamis also transmitted the same message, and we are simply following in their footsteps. There is no difference. We do not interpret the words of Krishna by saying, quote, "In my opinion, the battlefield of Kurukshetra represents the human body," end quote. Such interpretations are set forth by rascals. In the world, there are many rascal gurus who give their own opinion. But we can challenge any rascal. A rascal may say, quote, "I am God," end quote, or, quote, "We are all God," end quote. That is all right, but we should find out from the dictionary what the meaning of God is. Generally, a dictionary will tell us that the word God indicates the Supreme Being. Thus, we may ask such a guru, quote, "Are you the Supreme Being?" End quote. If he cannot understand this, then we should give the meaning of supreme. Any dictionary will inform us that supreme means, quote, "the greatest authority," end quote. We may then ask, quote, "Are you the greatest authority?" End quote. Such a rascal guru, even though proclaiming himself to be God, cannot answer such a question. God is the Supreme Being and the highest authority. No one is equal to him or greater than him. Yet there are many guru gods, many rascals who claim to be the Supreme. Such rascals cannot help us escape the darkness of material existence. They cannot illumine our darkness with the torchlight of spiritual knowledge. The bona fide guru will simply present what the Supreme Guru, God, says in bona fide scripture. A guru cannot change the message of the disciplic succession. We must understand that we cannot carry out research to find the absolute truth. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said, quote, "My Guru Maharaj, my spiritual master, considered me a great fool," end quote. He who remains a great fool before his guru is a guru himself. However, if one says, quote, "I am so advanced that I can speak better than my guru," end quote, then he is simply a rascal. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.2, Krishna says, "Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshyo vidu sakalanena mahata yoganashta parantapa." Quote, "This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost." End quote. Taking on a guru is not simply a fashion. One who is serious about understanding spiritual life requires a guru. A guru is a question of necessity, for one must be very serious to understand spiritual life, God, proper action, and one's relationship with God. When we are very serious about understanding these topics, we need a guru. We shouldn't go to a guru simply because a guru may be fashionable at the moment. Surrender must be there, for without surrender we cannot learn anything. If we go to a guru simply to challenge him, we will learn nothing. We must accept the guru just as Arjuna accepted his guru, Sri Krishna himself. Karpanaya dasho pahata swabhava prachami tvam dhamma or dharma samadacheta yat shreyasyan nichitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham sadimam tam prapanam. Quote, "Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me." End quote. Bhagavad Gita 2.7. This is the process for accepting a guru. The guru is Krishna's representative. The former acharya's representative. Krishna says that all acharyas are his representatives. Therefore, the guru should be offered the same respect one would offer to God. As Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his prayers to the spiritual master, "Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasada." Quote, "By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna." End quote. Thus, if we surrender to the bona fide guru, we surrender to God. God accepts our surrender to the guru. In the Bhagavad Gita 1866, Krishna instructs, "Sarvadharman parityajam amikam sharanam bhaja, aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma shucha." Quote, "Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear." End quote. Someone may argue, quote, "Where is Krishna? I shall surrender to him." End quote. But no, the process is that we first surrender to Krishna's representative. Then we surrender to Krishna. Therefore it is said, "Sakshat darit vena samashta shastri." The guru is as good as God. When we offer our respects to the guru, we are offering respects to God. Because we are trying to become God conscious, it is required that we learn how to offer respects to God through God's representative. In all the Shastras, the guru is described to be as good as God, but the guru never says, quote, "I am God." The disciple's duty is to offer respect to the guru, just as he offers respect to God, but the guru never thinks, quote, "My disciples are offering me the same respect that they offer to God, therefore I become God," end quote. As soon as he thinks like this, he becomes a dog instead of God. Therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti says, "Kintu prabhurja priya eva tasya." Because he is the most confidential servitor of God, the guru is offered the same respect that we offer God. God is always God, guru is always guru. It's a matter of etiquette. God is the worshipable God, and guru is the worshipper God, Sevaka Bhagavan. Therefore, the guru is addressed as Prabhupada. The word Prabhu means Lord, and Pad means position. Thus, Prabhupada means, quote, he who has taken the position of the Lord, end quote. This is the same as Sakshat Darit Venasamashtra Shastrai. Only if we are very serious about understanding the science of God is a guru required. We should not try to keep a guru as a matter of fashion. One who has accepted a guru speaks intelligently. He never speaks nonsense. That is a sign of having accepted a bona fide guru. We should certainly offer all respect to the spiritual master, but we should also remember how to carry out his orders. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.34, Sri Krishna himself tells us the method of seeking out and approaching the guru. Tadvini panipatena parishmastena seveya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. Quote, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth, end quote. The first process is that of surrender. We have to find an exalted person and willingly surrender before him. The Shastras enjoin that before we take a guru, we should study him carefully to find out whether we can surrender to him. We should not accept a guru suddenly out of fanaticism. That is very dangerous. The guru should also study the person who wants to become a disciple and to see that he is fit. That is the way a relationship is established between the guru and disciple. Everything is provided, but we must take up the process seriously. Then we can be trained to become a bona fide disciple. First, we must find a bona fide guru, establish our relationship with him, and act accordingly. Then our life will be successful, for the guru can enlighten the sincere disciple who is in darkness. Everyone is born a rascal and a fool. If we are born learned, why do we need to go to school? If we do not cultivate knowledge, we are no better than animals. An animal may say that there is no need of books and that he has become a guru, but how can anyone obtain knowledge without the study of authoritative books on science and philosophy? Rascal gurus try to avoid these things. We must understand that we are all born rascals and fools and that we have to be enlightened. We have to receive knowledge to make our lives perfect. If we do not perfect our lives, we are defeated. What is this defeat? The struggle for existence. We are trying to obtain a better life, to attain a superior position, and for this we are struggling very hard, but we do not know what a superior position actually is. Whatever position we have in this material world must be given up. We may have a good position or a bad position. In any case, we cannot remain here. We may earn millions of dollars and think, quote, now I'm in a good position, end quote. But a little dysentery or cholera will finish our position. If the bank fails, our position is gone. So actually there is no good position in this material world. It is a farce. Those who try to attain a better position in the material world are ultimately defeated because there is no better position. The Bhagavad Gita 14:26 says what the better position is. Mamchio babichanena bhakti yogena sevate sagaran samantityaitan bharma bhuyai kalpate. Quote, one who engages in the spiritual activities of unalloyed devotional service at once transcends the modes of material nature and is elevated to the spiritual platform, end quote. Is there any science that gives us the knowledge by which we may become immortal? Yes. We may become immortal, but not in the material sense. We cannot receive this knowledge in so-called universities. However, there is knowledge contained in the Vedic scriptures by which we may become immortal. That immortality is our better position. No more birth, no more death, no more old age, no more disease. Thus, the guru takes on a very great responsibility. He must guide his disciple and enable him to become an eligible candidate for the perfect position, immortality. The guru must be competent to lead his disciple back home, back to Godhead. Saints and swindlers. Every day, the number of people interested in practicing yoga and meditation increases by the thousands. Unfortunately, a person looking for a suitable guide is likely to encounter a bewildering array of magicians, self-styled gurus, and self-proclaimed gods. In an interview with the London Times, Srila Prabhupada explains how a sincere seeker can tell the difference between a counterfeit and genuine spiritual guide. Reporter: What frankly worries me is that since the arrival in Britain some time ago of an Indian yogi, who was the first, quote, guru, end quote, that most people had ever heard of, a lot of, quote, gurus, end quote, have suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Sometimes I get the feeling that not all of them are as genuine as they ought to be. Would it be right to warn people who are thinking of taking up spiritual life that they should make sure that they have a genuine guru to teach them? Srila Prabhupada: Yes. Of course, to search out a guru is very nice, but if you want a cheap guru, or if you want to be cheated, then you will find many cheating gurus. But if you are sincere, you will find a sincere guru. Because people want everything cheaply, they're cheated. We ask our students to refrain from illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. People think that this is all very difficult, a botheration. But if someone else says, quote, you may do whatever nonsense you like, simply take my mantra, end quote, then people will like him. The point is that people want to be cheated, and therefore cheaters come. No one wants to undergo any austerity. Human life is meant for austerity, but no one is prepared to undergo austerity. Consequently, cheaters come and go and say, quote, no austerity. Whatever you like, you do. Simply pay me and I'll give you some mantra and you'll become God in 6 months, end quote. All this is going on. If you want to be cheated like this, the cheaters will come. Reporter: What about the person who seriously wants to find spiritual life but who happens to finish up with the wrong guru? Srila Prabhupada: If you simply want an ordinary education, you have to devote so much time, labor, and understanding to it. Similarly, if you are going to take to spiritual life, you must become serious. How is it that simply by some wonderful mantras, someone can become God in 6 months? Why do people want something like that? This means that they want to be cheated. Reporter: How can a person tell if he has a genuine guru? Srila Prabhupada: Can any of my students answer this question? Disciple: Once I remember John Lennon asked you, quote, how will I know who is the genuine guru? And you answered, quote, just find out the one who is most addicted to Krishna. He is genuine, end quote. Srila Prabhupada: Yes. The genuine guru is God's representative, and he speaks about God and nothing else. The genuine guru is he who has no interest in materialistic life. He is after God and God only. That is one of the tests of a genuine guru, Brahmanishtam. He is absorbed in the absolute truth. In the Mundaka Upanishad it is stated, Strotyam Brahmanishtam. Quote, the genuine guru is well versed in the scriptures and Vedic knowledge, and he is completely dependent upon Brahman, end quote. He should know what is Brahman, spirit, and how to become situated in Brahman. These signs are given in the Vedic literature. As I said before, the real guru is God's representative. He represents the Supreme Lord, just as a viceroy represents a king. The real guru will not manufacture anything. Everything he says is in accordance with the scriptures and the previous acharyas. He will not give you a mantra and say that you will become God in 6 months. That is not a guru's business. A guru's business is to canvass everyone to become a devotee of God. That is the sum and substance of a real guru's business. Indeed, he has no other business. He tells whomever he sees, quote, please become God conscious, end quote. If he canvasses somehow or other on behalf of God and tries to get everyone to become a devotee of God, he is a genuine guru. Reporter: What about a Christian priest? Srila Prabhupada: Christian, Mohammedan, Hindu, it doesn't matter. If he is simply speaking on behalf of God, he is guru. Lord Jesus Christ, for instance, he canvassed people saying, quote, just try to love God, end quote. Anyone, doesn't matter who, be it Hindu, Muslim, Christian, is a guru if he convinces people to love God. That is the test. The guru never says, quote, I am God, or, quote, I will make you God, end quote. The real guru says, I am a servant of God, and I will make you a servant of God also, end quote. It doesn't matter how the guru is dressed. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, quote, whoever can impart knowledge about Krishna is a spiritual master, end quote. A genuine spiritual master simply tries to get people to become devotees of Krishna, or God. He has no other business. Reporter. But the bad gurus? Srila Prabhupada. And what is a, quote, bad, end quote, guru? Reporter. A bad guru just wants some money or some fame. Srila Prabhupada. Well, if he's bad, how can he become a guru? Laughter. How can iron become gold? Actually, a guru cannot be bad, for if someone is bad, he cannot be guru. You cannot say, quote, bad guru, end quote. That is a contradiction. What you have to do is simply try to understand what a genuine guru is. The definition of a genuine guru is that he is simply talking about God. That's all. If he's talking about some other nonsense, he's not a guru. A guru cannot be bad. There is no question of bad guru any more than there's a red guru or a white guru. Guru means, quote, genuine guru. All we have to know is that the genuine guru is simply talking about God and trying to get people to become God's devotees. If he does this, he's genuine. Reporter. If I wanted to be initiated into your society, what would I do? Srila Prabhupada. First of all, you'd have to give up illicit sex life. Reporter. Does that include all sex life? What is illicit sex life? Srila Prabhupada. Illicit sex is sex outside of marriage. Animals have sex with no restrictions, but in human society there are restrictions. In every country and in every religion there is some system of restricting sex life. You would also have to give up all intoxicants, including tea, cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana, anything that intoxicates. Reporter. Anything else? Srila Prabhupada. You would also have to give up eating meat, fish, or eggs. And you'd have to give up gambling as well. Unless you give up these 4 sinful activities, you could not be initiated. Reporter. How many followers do you have throughout the world? Srila Prabhupada. For anything genuine, the followers may be very few. For something rubbish, the followers may be many. Still, we have about 5,000 initiated disciples. Reporter. Is the Krishna consciousness movement growing all the time? Srila Prabhupada. Yes, it is growing, but slowly. This is because we have so many restrictions. People do not like restrictions. Reporter. Where is your following the greatest? Srila Prabhupada. In the United States, Europe, South America, and Australia. And of course, in India, there are millions who practice Krishna consciousness. Reporter. Can you tell me what the goal of your movement is? Srila Prabhupada. The purpose of this Krishna consciousness movement is to awaken man's original consciousness. At the present moment, our consciousness is designated. Someone is thinking, quote, I am an Englishman, and another is thinking, quote, I am an American. Actually, we do not belong to any of these designations. We are all part and parcel of God. That is our real identity. If anyone simply comes to that consciousness, all the problems of the world will be solved. Then we shall come to know that we are one, the same quality of spirit soul. The same quality of spirit soul is within everyone, although it may be in different dress. This is the explanation given in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna consciousness is actually a purificatory process, sarvapadi vimirmuktam. Its purpose is to make people free from all designations, tatparatve nirmalam. When our consciousness becomes purified of all designations, the activities we carry out with our purified senses make us perfect. Eventually, we reach the ideal perfection of human life. Krishna consciousness is also a very simple process. It is not necessary to become a great philosopher, scientist, or whatever. We need only chant the holy name of the Lord, understanding that his personality, his name, and his qualities are all absolute. Krishna consciousness is a great science. Unfortunately, in the universities, there is no department for this science. Therefore, we invite all serious men who are interested in the welfare of human society to understand this great movement and, if possible, take part in it and cooperate with us. The problems of the world will be solved. This is also the verdict of the Bhagavad Gita, the most important and authoritative book of spiritual knowledge. Many of you have heard of the Bhagavad Gita. Our movement is based on it. Our movement is approved by all the great acharyas in India, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Lord Chaitanya, and so many others. You are all representatives of newspapers, so I ask you to try to understand this movement as far as possible for the good of all human society. Reporter, do you think your movement is the only way to know God? Srila Prabhupada, yes. Reporter, how are you assured of that? Srila Prabhupada, from the authorities of God. Krishna says, Sarvadharmanan parityajam amikam sharanam bhaja aham tam sarva papebhyo moksheshami masucha. Quote, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 1866. Reporter, does, quote, surrender, end quote, mean that someone would have to leave his family? Srila Prabhupada, no. Reporter, but suppose I were to become an initiate, wouldn't I have to come and live in the temple? Srila Prabhupada, not necessarily. Reporter, I can stay at home? Srila Prabhupada, oh yes. Reporter, and what about work? Would I have to give up my job? Srila Prabhupada, no. You'd simply have to give up your bad habits and chant the Hare Krishna mantra on these beads, that's all. Reporter, would I have to give any financial support? Srila Prabhupada, no. That is your voluntary wish. If you give, that's all right. And if you don't, we don't mind. We do not depend on anyone's financial contribution. We depend on Krishna. Reporter, I wouldn't have to give any money at all? Srila Prabhupada, no. Reporter, this is one of the main things that distinguishes the genuine guru from the fake guru? Srila Prabhupada, yes, the genuine guru is not a businessman. He is a representative of God. Whatever God says, the guru repeats. He does not speak nonsense. Reporter, but would you expect to find a real guru, say, traveling in a Rolls Royce and staying in a penthouse suite in a classy hotel? Srila Prabhupada, sometimes people provide us with a room in a first-class hotel, but we generally stay in our own temples. We have some 100 temples around the world, so we don't require to go to any hotels. Reporter, I wasn't making any accusations. I was merely trying to illustrate that I think your warning is a valid one. There are so many people interested in finding spiritual life, and at the same time, there are a lot of people interested in cashing in on the, quote, guru business, end quote. Srila Prabhupada, are you under the impression that spiritual life means voluntarily accepting poverty? Reporter, well, I don't know. Srila Prabhupada, a poverty-stricken man may be materialistic and a wealthy man may be very spiritual. Spiritual life does not depend on either poverty or wealth. Spiritual life is transcendental. Consider Arjuna, for instance. Arjuna was a member of the royal family, and yet he was a pure devotee of God. And in the Bhagavad Gita 4.2 says, Krishna says, Evam parampraptam imam rajarshyo vidu. Quote, this supreme science was received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way, end quote. In the past, all kings who were saintly understood spiritual science. Therefore, spiritual life does not depend on one's material condition. Whatever a person's material condition may be, he may be a king or a pauper, he can still understand spiritual life. Generally, people do not know what spiritual life is, and therefore they unnecessarily criticize us. If I asked you what spiritual life is, how would you answer? Reporter, well, I'm not sure. Srila Prabhupada, although you do not know what spiritual life is, still you say, quote, it is this, or, quote, it is that, end quote. But first, you should know what spiritual life is. Spiritual life begins when you understand that you are not your body. This is the real beginning of spiritual life. By seeing the difference between yourself and your body, you come to understand that you are spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi. Reporter, do you think this knowledge should be a part of everyone's education? Srila Prabhupada, yes. People should be first taught what they are. Are they their bodies or something else? That is the beginning of education. Now everyone is educated to think that he is the body. Because someone accidentally gets an American body, he thinks, quote, I'm an American, end quote. This is just like thinking, quote, I am a red shirt, end quote, just because you are wearing a red shirt. You are not a red shirt. You're a human being. Similarly, this body is like a shirt or coat over the real person, the spirit soul. If we recognize ourselves simply by our bodily, quote, shirt or quote, end quote, then we have no spiritual education. Reporter, do you think that such education should be given in schools? Srila Prabhupada, yes, in schools, colleges, and universities. There is an immense literature on this subject, an immense fund of knowledge. What is actually required is that the leaders of society come forward to understand this movement. Reporter, have you ever had people come to you who had previously been involved with a fake guru? Srila Prabhupada, yes, there are many. Reporter, were their spiritual lives in any way spoiled by the fake gurus? Srila Prabhupada, no, they were genuinely seeking something spiritual, and that was their qualification. God is within everyone's heart, and as soon as someone genuinely seeks him, he helps that person find a genuine guru. Reporter, have the real gurus like yourself ever tried to put a stop to the false gurus? That is, to put pressure on them and put them out of business, so to speak? Srila Prabhupada, no, that is not my purpose. I started my movement simply by chanting Hare Krishna. I chanted in New York in a place called Tompkins Square Park, and soon people began to come to me. In this way, the Krishna consciousness movement gradually developed. Many accepted and many did not accept. Those who are fortunate have accepted. Reporter, don't you feel that people are suspicious because of their experience with fake gurus? If you went to a quack dentist and he broke your tooth, you might be suspicious about going to another dentist. Srila Prabhupada, yes, naturally. If you're cheated, you will become suspicious. But this does not mean that if you're cheated once, you will always be cheated. You should find someone genuine. But to come to Krishna consciousness, you must be either very fortunate or well aware of this science. From the Bhagavad Gita, we understand that the genuine seekers are very few. Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatata siddhaye. Out of many millions of people, there may be one who is interested in spiritual life. Generally, people are interested in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So how can we expect to find many followers? It is not difficult to notice that people have lost their spiritual interest, and almost all those who are actually interested are being cheated by so-called spiritualists. You cannot judge a movement simply by the number of its followers. If one man is genuine, then the movement is successful. It is not a question of quantity, but quality. Reporter, I wonder how many people you might think have been taken by fake gurus. Srila Prabhupada, practically everyone. Laughter. There is no question of counting. Everyone. Reporter, this would mean thousands of people, wouldn't it? Srila Prabhupada, millions. Millions have been cheated because they want to be cheated. God is omniscient. He can understand your desires. He is within your heart. And if you want to be cheated, God sends you a cheater. Reporter, is it possible for everyone to attain the perfectional yoga stage you spoke of previously? Srila Prabhupada, within a second, anyone can attain perfection within a second, provided he is willing. The difficulty is that no one is willing. In the Bhagavad Gita 1866, Krishna says, Sarva dharman prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Simply surrender unto me, end quote. But who is going to surrender to God? Everyone says, oh, why should I surrender to God? I will be independent, end quote. If you simply surrender, it is a second's business. That's all. But no one is willing, and that is the difficulty. Reporter, When you say that lots of people want to be cheated, do you mean that lots of people want to carry on with their worldly pleasures and at the same time by chanting a mantra or by holding a flower achieve spiritual life as well? Is this what you mean by wanting to be cheated? Srila Prabhupada, yes, this is like a patient thinking, quote, I shall continue with my disease and at the same time I shall become healthy, end quote. It is contradictory. The first requirement is that one become educated in spiritual life. Spiritual life is not something one can understand by a few minutes talk. There are many philosophy and theology books, but people are not interested in them. That is the difficulty. For instance, the Srimad Bhagavatam is a very long work, and if you try to read this book, it may take days just to understand one line of it. The Bhagavatam describes God, the absolute truth, but people are not interested. And if, by chance, someone becomes a little interested in spiritual life, he wants something immediate and cheap. Therefore, he's cheated. Actually, human life is meant for austerity and penance. That is the way of Vedic civilization. In Vedic times, they would train boys as brahmacharis. No sex life was allowed at all up to the age of 25. Where is that education now? A brahmachari is a student who lives a life of complete celibacy and obeys the commands of his guru at the Gurukul, school of the spiritual master. Now, schools and colleges are teaching sex from the very beginning, and 12 and 13-year-old boys and girls are having sex. How can they have a spiritual life? Spiritual life means voluntarily accepting some austerities for the sake of God realization. This is why we insist on no illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, or intoxication for our initiated students. Without these restrictions, any, quote, yoga meditation, end quote, or so-called spiritual discipline cannot be genuine. It is simply a business deal between the cheaters and the cheated. Reporter, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. The absolute necessity of a spiritual master. In February 1936, in Bombay, India, the members of a reputed religious society, the Gaudiya Math, were astonished by the powerful and eloquent words of a young member who spoke in honor of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. 3 decades later, the young speaker would become the world-renowned founder and spiritual master of the Krishna consciousness movement. Srila Prabhupada's presentation is a memorable statement on the importance of the Guru in spiritual life. Shaksha dadit venasamashtra shastrid uktastata bhavyata eva sabhi kintu prabhu yapriya vitasya vande guru sri charanadavindam. Quote, in the revealed scriptures, it is declared that the spiritual master should be worshipped like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this injunction is obeyed by pure devotees of the Lord. The spiritual master is the most confidential servant of the Lord. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of our spiritual master. End quote. Gentlemen, on behalf of the members of the Bombay branch of the Gaudiya Math, let me welcome you all because you have so kindly joined us tonight in our congregational offerings of homage to the lotus feet of the world teacher Acharya Dev, who is the founder of this Gaudiya mission and is the president Acharya of Shri Shri Vishra Vaishnava Rajasabha. I mean, my eternal divine master, Paramahansa Paravajagacharya Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. 62 years ago, on this auspicious day, the Acharya Dev made his appearance by the call of Thakur Bhaktivinoda at Sri Kshetra Jagannath Dham in Puri. Gentlemen, the offering of such an homage as has been arranged this evening to the Acharya Dev is not a sectarian concern, for when we speak of the fundamental principle of Guru Dev or Acharya Dev, we speak of something that is of a universal application. There does not arise any question of discriminating my Guru from yours or anyone else's. There is only one Guru who appears in an infinity of forms to teach you, me, and all others. The Guru, or Acharyadev, as we learn from the bona fide scriptures, delivers the message of the absolute world, the transcendental abode of the absolute personality, where everything non-differentially serves the absolute truth. We have heard so many times, Mahajano yena gata sapanta, quote, traverse the path which your previous Acharya has passed, end quote. But we have hardly tried to understand the real purport of this shloka. If we scrutinizingly study this proposition, we understand that the Mahajan is one, and the royal road to the transcendental world is also one. In the Mundaka Upanishad 1.2.12, it is said, Tad Vijnanartam Sagarum Eva Bhagachit Samit Pani Stotiyam Brahmanishtam. Quote, in order to learn the transcendental science, one must approach the bona fide spiritual master in disciplic succession, who is fixed in the absolute truth, end quote. Thus it has been enjoined herewith that in order to receive the transcendental knowledge, one must approach the Guru. Therefore, if the absolute truth is one, about which we think there is no difference of opinion, the Guru also cannot be two. The Acharyadev, for whom we have assembled tonight to offer our humble homage, is not the Guru of a sectarian institution or one of many differing exponents of the truth. On the contrary, he is the Jagat Guru, or the Guru of all of us. The only difference is that some obey him wholeheartedly, while others do not obey him directly. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.17.27, it is said, Acharya mam viganyan Nava manyeta karichit, namartya buddhya suyeta, sarva deva mayo guru. Quote, one should understand the spiritual master to be as good as I am, end quote, said the blessed Lord. Quote, no one should be jealous of the spiritual master and think of him as an ordinary man, because the spiritual master is the sum total of all the demigods, end quote. That is, the Acharya has been identified with God himself. He has nothing to do with the affairs of this mundane world. He does not descend here to meddle with the affairs of temporary necessities, but to deliver the fallen conditioned souls, the souls or entities who have come here to the material world with a motive of enjoyment by the mind and the five organs of sense perception. He appears before us to reveal the light of the Vedas and to bestow upon us the blessings of full-fledged freedom, after which we should hanker at every step of our life's journey. The transcendental knowledge of the Vedas was first uttered by God to Brahma, the creator of this particular universe. From Brahma, the knowledge descended to Narada, from Narada to Vyasadeva, from Vyasadeva to Madhva, and in this process of disciplic succession, the transcendental knowledge was transmitted by one disciple to another till it reached Lord Gauranga, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who posed as the disciple and successor of Sri Ishwarapuri. The present Acharyadev is the 10th disciplic representative from Srila Rupa Goswami, the original representative of Lord Chaitanya, who preached this transcendental tradition in its fullness. The knowledge that we receive from our Gurudev is not different from that imparted by God himself and the succession of the Acharyas in the preceptorial line of Brahma. We adore this auspicious day as Shri Vyas Puj Titi because the Acharya, as the living representative of Vyasadeva, the divine compiler of the Vedas, the Puranas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, and the Srimad Bhagavatam. One who interprets the divine sound, or Shabda Brahma, by his imperfect sense perception cannot be a real spiritual guru, because in the absence of proper disciplinary training under the bona fide Acharya, the interpreter is sure to differ from the Vyasadeva, as the Mayavadis do. Srila Vyasadeva is the prime authority of Vedic revelation, and therefore such an irrelevant interpreter cannot be accepted as the guru, or Acharya, howsoever equipped he may be with all the acquirements of material knowledge. As it is said in the Padma Purana, Sampradaya Vihineye Mantraste Nishphala Mata, quote, unless you are initiated by a bona fide spiritual master in the disciplic succession, The mantra that you might have received is without any effect." End quote. On the other hand, one who has received the transcendental knowledge by oral reception from the bona fide preceptor in the disciplic chain, and who has sincere regard for the real Acharya, must needs be enlightened with the revealed knowledge of the Vedas. But this knowledge is permanently sealed to the cognitive approach of the empiricists. As it is said in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.23, "Yasa deve paragar bhaktir, yata deve tatagaro, tasite kahite arta, prakashante mahatmana." Quote, "Only unto those great souls who simultaneously have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed." End quote. Gentlemen, our knowledge is so poor, our senses are so imperfect, and our sources are so limited that it is not possible for us to even have the slightest knowledge of the absolute region without surrendering ourselves at the lotus feet of Sri Vyasadeva or his bona fide representative. Every moment we are being deceived by the knowledge of our direct perception. It is all the creation or concoction of the mind, which is always deceiving, changing, and flickering. We cannot know anything of the transcendental region by our limited, perverted method of observation and experiment. But all of us can lend our eager ears for the oral reception of the transcendental sound thus transmitted from that region to this through the unadulterated medium of Sri Gurudev or Sri Vyasadeva. Therefore, gentlemen, we should surrender ourselves today at the feet of the representative of Sri Vyasadeva for the elimination of all our differences bred by our unsubmissive attitude. It is accordingly said in the Sri Gita 434, "Tadvidi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya gopadikshanti geda gyanam gyanas tattvadarshana." Quote, "Just approach the wise and bona fide spiritual master, surrender unto him first, and try to understand him by inquiries and service. Such a wise spiritual master will enlighten you with transcendental knowledge, for he has already known the absolute truth." End quote. To receive the transcendental knowledge, we must completely surrender ourselves to the real Acharya in a spirit of ardent inquiry and service. Actual performance of service to the Absolute under the guidance of the Acharya is the only vehicle by which we can assimilate the transcendental knowledge. Today's meeting for offering our humble services and homage to the feet of the Acharya Dev will enable us to be favored with the capacity for assimilating the transcendental knowledge so kindly transmitted by him to all persons without distinction. Gentlemen, we are more or less all proud of our past Indian civilization, but we actually do not know the real nature of that civilization. We cannot be proud of our past material civilization, which is now 1,000 times greater than in days gone by. It is said that we're passing through the age of darkness, the Kali Yuga. What is this darkness? The darkness cannot be due to backwardness in material knowledge, because now we have more of it than formerly. If not we ourselves, our neighbors, at any rate, have plenty of it. Therefore, we must conclude that the darkness of the present age is not due to lack of material advancement, but that we have lost the clue to our spiritual advancement, which is the prime necessity of human life and the criterion of the highest type of human civilization. Throwing bombs from airplanes is no advancement of civilization from the primitive, uncivilized practice of dropping big stones on the heads of enemies from the tops of hills. Improvement of the art of killing our neighbors by means of machine guns and poisonous gases is certainly no advancement from primitive barbarism, which prided itself on its art of killing by bows and arrows. Nor does the development of a sense of pampered selfishness prove anything more than intellectual animalism. True human civilization is very different from all these states, and therefore the Katha Upanishad 1.3.14, there is the emphatic call, Uttishthata jagarata prapya varan nibhodata kshurishya dara nishita durataya Durgam patas tat kavayo vadanti. Quote, please wake up and try to understand the boon that you now have in this human form of life. The path of spiritual realization is very difficult, is sharp like a razor's edge. That is the opinion of learned transcendental scholars. End quote. Thus, while others were yet in the womb of historical oblivion, the sages of India had developed a different kind of civilization which enabled them to know themselves. They had discovered that we are not at all material entities, but that we are all spiritual, permanent, and indestructible servants of the Absolute. But because we have, against our better judgment, chosen to completely identify ourselves with this present material existence, our sufferings have multiplied according to the inexorable law of birth and death, with its consequent diseases and anxieties. These sufferings cannot be really mitigated by any provision of material happiness, because matter and spirit are completely different elements. It is just as if you took an aquatic animal out of water and put it on the land, supplying all manner of happiness possible on land. The deadly sufferings of the animal are not capable of being relieved at all until it is taken out of its foreign environment. Spirit and matter are completely contradictory things. All of us are spiritual entities. We cannot have perfect happiness, which is our birthright, however much we meddle in the affairs of mundane things. Perfect happiness can be ours only when we are restored to our natural state of spiritual existence. This is the distinctive message of our ancient Indian civilization. This is the message of the Gita, and this is the message of the Vedas and the Puranas, and this is the message of all the real Acharyas, including our present Acharyadev in the line of Lord Chaitanya. Gentlemen, although it is imperfectly that we have been enabled by his grace to understand the sublime messages of our Acharyadev, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravijagacharya Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, we must admit that we have realized definitely that the divine message from his holy lips is the congenial thing for suffering humanity. All of us should hear him patiently. If we listen to the transcendental sound without unnecessary opposition, he will surely have mercy upon us. The Acharya's message is to take us back to our original home, back to God. Let me repeat, then, that we should hear him patiently, follow him in the measure of our conviction, and bow down at his lotus feet for releasing us from our present causeless unwillingness to serve the Absolute and all souls. From the Gita, we learn that even after the destruction of the body, the Atma, or the soul, is not destroyed, for he is always the same, always new and fresh. Fire cannot burn him, water cannot dissolve him, the air cannot dry him up, and the sword cannot kill him. He is everlasting and eternal, and this is also confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:84-13. Yayatma buddhi kunapati datake swadi kaatrideshu boma trijiyadi Yat tirta buddhi salilek nakarichit yagneshu abhigneshu saeva gokara. Quote, anyone who accepts this bodily bag of three elements, bile, mucus, and air, as his self, and who has an affinity for intimate relationship with his wife and children, who considers his land worshipable, who takes bath in the waters of holy places of pilgrimage, but never takes advantage of those persons who are in actual knowledge, he is no better than an ass or a cow. End quote. Unfortunately, in these days, we have all been turned foolish by neglecting our real comfort and identifying the material cage with ourselves. We have concentrated all our energies for the meaningless upkeep of the material cage for its own sake, completely neglecting the captive soul within. The cage is meant for the undoing of the bird. The bird is not meant for the welfare of the cage. Let us therefore deeply ponder this. All our activities are now turned toward the upkeep of the cage, and the most we do is try to give some food to the mind by art and literature. But we do not know that this mind is also material and in a more subtle form. This is stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.4. Bhumiyat Polanolo Vayu Kamano Bordevicha Ahankaran Ityam Me Viner Prakati Astada. Quote, earth, water, fire, air, intelligence, mind, and ego are all my separated energies, end quote. We have scarcely tried to give any food to the soul, which is distinct from the body and mind. Therefore, we're all committing suicide in the proper sense of the term. The message of the Acharya Dev is to give us warning to halt such wrong activities. Let us therefore bow down at his lotus feet for the unalloyed mercy and kindness he has bestowed upon us. Gentlemen, do not think for a moment that my Gurudev wants to put a complete break on the human modern civilization, an impossible feat. But let us learn from him the art of making the best use of a bad bargain, and let us understand the importance of this human life, which is fit for the highest development of true consciousness. The best use of this rare human life should not be neglected. As it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.9.29, Ladva sadurlabham idam baho sambhavat te manushyam artadam anipyam apyadira turyam yateta na patet anu mrityu yavan nishraya shya vishya kalo sarvatasyat. Quote, this human form of life is obtained after many, many births, and although it is not permanent, it can offer the highest benefits. Therefore, a sober and intelligent man should immediately try to fulfill his mission and attain the highest profit in life before another death occurs. He should avoid sense gratification, which is available in all circumstances. End quote. Let us not misuse this human life in the vain pursuit of material enjoyment, or in other words, only for the sake of eating, sleeping, fearing, and sensuous activities. The Acharya Dev's message is conveyed by the words of Srila Rupa Goswami, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2, 255, and 256. Anasaktasya vishayan yartarham upayunjata nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchite prapanchikataya buddhaya hari sambani vasana mumukshiba parityago vairagam falgu katate. Quote, one is said to be situated in the fully renounced order of life if he lives in accordance with Krishna consciousness. He should be without attachment for sense gratification and should accept only what is necessary for the upkeep of the body. On the other hand, one who renounces things that could be used in the service of Krishna under the pretext that such things are material does not practice complete renunciation. The purport of these shlokas can only be realized by fully developing the rational portion of our life, not the animal portion. Sitting at the feet of the Acharya Dev, let us try to understand from this transcendental source of knowledge what we are, what is this universe, what is God, and what is our relationship with Him. The message of Lord Chaitanya is the message for the living entities and the message of the living world. Lord Chaitanya did not bother himself for the upliftment of this dead world, which is suitably named Martyaloka, the world where everything is destined to die. He appeared before us 450 years ago to tell us something of the transcendental universe, where everything is permanent and everything is for the service of the Absolute. But recently, Lord Chaitanya has been misrepresented by some unscrupulous persons, and the highest philosophy of the Lord has been misinterpreted to be the cult of the lowest type of society. We are glad to announce tonight that our Acharya Dev, with his usual kindness, has saved us from this horrible type of degradation, and therefore we bow down at his lotus feet with all humility. Gentlemen, it has been the mania of the cultured or uncultured society of the present day to credit the personality of Godhead with merely impersonal features and stultify him by claiming that he has no senses, no form, no activity, no head, no legs, and no enjoyment. This has also been the pleasure of modern scholars due to their sheer lack of proper guidance and true introspection into the spiritual realm. All these empiricists think alike. All the enjoyable things should be monopolized by the human society, or by a particular class only, and the impersonal God should be a mere order supplier for their whimsical feats. We are happy that we have been relieved of this horrible type of malady by the mercy of His Divine Grace, Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. He is our eye-opener, our eternal Father, our eternal preceptor, and our eternal guide. Let us therefore bow down at His lotus feet on this auspicious day. Gentlemen, although we are like ignorant children in the knowledge of transcendence, still His Divine Grace, my Gurudev, has kindled a small fire within us to dissipate the invincible darkness of empirical knowledge. We are now so much on the safe side that no amount of philosophical argument by the empiric schools of thought can deviate us an inch from the position of our eternal dependence on the lotus feet of His Divine Grace. Furthermore, we are prepared to challenge the most erudite scholars of the Mayavad school and prove that the personality of Godhead and His transcendental sports in Goloka alone constitute the sublime information of the Vedas. There are explicit indications of this in the Chandogya Upanishad 8.13.1. Samyach chavalam prapadye, savalach shyamam prapadye. Quote, for receiving the mercy of Krishna, I surrender unto His surrender unto Krishna. Also in the Rig Veda 1:22-20, Tad Vishnu paramam padam sada Pashyanti Saryat Deviva Chakur Attatam Vishnur Yat Paramam Padam. Quote, the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu are the supreme objective of all the demigods. These lotus feet of the Lord are as enlightening as the sun in the sky. End quote. The plain truth is so vividly explained in the Gita, which is the central lesson of the Vedas, and it's not understood or even suspected by the most powerful scholars of the empiric schools. Herein lies the secret of Shri Vyaspuj. When we meditate on the transcendental pastimes of the absolute Godhead, we are proud to feel that we are His eternal servitors, and we become jubilant and dance with joy. All glory to my Divine Master, for it is He who has, out of His unceasing flow of mercy, stirred up within us such a movement of eternal existence. Let us bow down at His lotus feet. Gentlemen, had He not appeared before us to deliver us from the thraldom of this gross worldly delusion, surely we would have remained for lives and ages in the darkness of helpless captivity. Had He not appeared before us, we would not have been able to understand the eternal truth of the sublime teaching of Lord Chaitanya. Had He not appeared before us, we could not have been able to know the significance of the first sloka of Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadi Adi Govindam Sarvakarna Karnam. Quote, Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and He is the prime cause of all causes. End quote. Personally, I have no hope for any direct service from the coming crores of births in the sojourn of my life, but I am confident that some day or other I shall be delivered from this mire of delusion in which I am at present so deeply sunk. Therefore, let me with all my earnestness pray at the lotus feet of my Divine Master to allow me to suffer the lot for which I am destined due to my past misdoings, but to let me have this power of recollection, that I am nothing but a tiny servant of the Almighty Absolute Godhead, realized through the unflinching mercy of my Divine Master. Therefore, let me bow down at His lotus feet with all the humility at my command.